I'm Rachel Morgan, 32 years old, and last Tuesday changed everything. The morning began with Kevin flipping dinosaur pancakes for our daughter Lily. By noon, he was gone. A sudden heart attack. One phone call, and my world collapsed. In shock, I called my parents, hoping for comfort. My mother's response: "Can this wait? We're celebrating Sophia's birthday." That night, Lily and I sat alone, no family, no support, just silence. But what hurt most wasn't the loss. It was realizing who truly disappears when you're drowning. If you've ever been abandoned in your darkest hour, this story is for you. Kevin kissed me on the forehead that morning, humming, while he flipped dinosaur-shaped pancakes for our daughter Lily. He was wearing that stupid tie with the jelly stains, Lily's favorite. I teased him like always. He winked and said, "Syrup's only worth it if it's the real kind, remember." Then he grabbed his coffee, his briefcase, and was gone. At 10:47 a.m. my phone rang. It wasn't his voice I heard. It was his boss. Panicked, shaky, saying words I couldn't string together: collapse, ambulance, no pulse, so sorry, Rachel. I don't remember screaming. I only remember the coffee cup slipping from my hand and shattering against the tile like a gunshot. When I got to the hospital, they wouldn't let me see him right away. I sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights while the world blurred. Then a nurse came out, and her eyes said what her lips didn't dare say: "He's gone. Gone." No warning, no goodbye, no last words. Just gone. I drove home in silence. Lily was still at school. I had to pick her up. I had to tell her. But first, I called my mom. Because even at 32, you still think your mother will know what to do when your life catches fire. She picked up on the third ring. I could hear laughter behind her glass clinking. "Rachel, can I call you back? We're celebrating Sophia's birthday." "What's going on?" I choked out the words. "Kevin, he's dead." There was a pause. A silence so loud, it felt like a slap. "Oh," she said finally. "Rachel, that's awful. But can this wait?" Sophia just started opening presents. That night, I sat in the dark with Lily curled in my lap. I hadn't told her yet. I didn't know how. I stared at the phone in my hand, waiting for it to ring again. Waiting for anyone from my family to show up. But no one came. And in that silence, I realized I hadn't just lost my husband. I was about to lose my family too. How we fell in love and why I never expected to lose him. Kevin wasn't supposed to die. We met in the most unromantic way imaginable sophomore year, Econ 20280 AM on Mondays. I was drowning in depreciation curves and GDP formulas, and he was the effortlessly charming TA who stayed after class to explain things with the patience of a saint. That patience was the first thing I fell for. Then his laugh, loud, unapologetic, the kind that made you laugh too, even if you didn't get the joke. And the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, I swear it could melt glaciers. We dated through college. He proposed on graduation day, slipping the ring into my diploma case like he couldn't wait one more second. We were 23, stupid in love, and everyone told us we were too young. Live a little first, they said. But Kevin was the life I wanted to live. He was the one who made grilled cheese at midnight when I couldn't sleep. The one who danced with me in the kitchen just because my favorite song came on. The one who looked at me like I was the whole world, even when I didn't believe I was worth it. After he got his MBA, Kevin landed a job at a high-powered financial firm in Chicago. He moved up fast, not just because he was brilliant with numbers, but because he made people feel safe, heard. He wasn't just a financial advisor. He was a guy who'd stay after a meeting to explain your retirement plan because he didn't want you to feel dumb. We waited 5 years before trying for a baby. We thought it would be easy. It wasn't. 2 miscarriages, 1 failed IVF, thousands of dollars, countless tears. I remember crying in the bathroom with a negative pregnancy test while Kevin sat on the floor outside the door reading me bad dad jokes to make me smile. We almost gave up. Almost. Then miracle. Lily. The pregnancy was brutal. I was on bed rest for 2 months, and Kevin practically moved into the guest room to take care of me full time. He massaged my swollen feet, brought me smoothies with exactly 3 ice cubes, and read baby books out loud, complete with the silly voices. When Lily was born, he cried harder than I did. He held her like she was made of glass, whispering, "Hi, I'm your dad," like it was the greatest honor anyone had ever given him. For 8 years, we were the kind of family that makes strangers smile. Kevin coached Lily's soccer team even though he didn't know the rules. He color-coded our family calendar. He had reminders for everything from dentist appointments to tell Lily she's brave today. We were the dream I didn't even know I was allowed to have. And then one morning, it was over. But I need to tell you how beautiful it was first. Because if I'm going to tell you about the grief, the betrayal, the fight that came after, you need to know exactly what I lost. The last normal Tuesday. Kevin was a creature of routine. Every Tuesday morning, he made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, even when we were running late, even when Lily was too old to think they were cool. It's tradition, he'd say, flipping a brontosaurus with exaggerated flair. You don't mess with tradition. That Tuesday felt like any other. While he cooked, I packed Lily's lunch. At 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Amanda, his assistant, her voice was shaking. Rachel, Kevin collapsed. They're taking him to Northwestern Memorial? I remember dropping my coffee mug. It shattered on the tile, but I couldn't hear it over the sound of my own heartbeat. I called our neighbor to pick up. Lily grabbed my keys and drove to the hospital like a madwoman running red lights, screaming prayers at a silent sky. When I arrived, they had already covered him with a sheet. 11:23 a.m., time of death, massive heart attack. He wouldn't have felt a thing, the nurse said, as if that was supposed to help. I touched his face. It was still warm. His lips were parted as if mid-sentence. I kept waiting for his eyes to open for him to say, "Gotcha, Rach." This was a terrible prank, but there was only silence. The kind that fills your ears until it feels like drowning. How do you tell an 8-year-old her father is never coming home? By the time I left the hospital, Kevin's body was cold. Mine was numb. The sun still shone. Traffic still moved. People still ordered coffee, like the world hadn't just split open. I sat in the car outside Lily's school, gripping the steering wheel, like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to earth. I watched the doors, watched her bounce out unaware, happy, her backpack too big for her tiny frame. She slid into the back seat, kicking her shoes off like always. "Where's Daddy?" she asked immediately. "He said he'd be at my art show tonight." I couldn't answer. My throat locked up. I pulled over to the side of the road because I couldn't trust myself to keep driving. Then I turned to face her. Her small hands were clutched around a folded paper, her art project no doubt made for him. I took her hands in mine. "Lily," I said, and my voice broke like glass. "Something very, very sad happened today. Daddy got sick at work. His heart stopped working." She frowned. "But the doctors can fix it, right?" The hope in her voice shattered something inside me. "No, baby," I whispered. This time, they couldn't fix it. Daddy died today. The silence after was infinite. Then she asked, "So he's not coming home?" I nodded, tears pouring down my face. And she made a sound I've never heard a child make. A raw, broken howl that belonged in a war zone. She lunged into my arms, sobbing, screaming, "I want Daddy. I want my Daddy." We stayed there, parked on the side of the road, holding each other, while the world around us kept spinning. People walking dogs, crossing streets, laughing into their phones. No one knew that our world had just collapsed. That night, Lily refused to sleep in her own bed. She curled into my side, clutching Kevin's old t-shirt like it was oxygen. She whimpered in her sleep, whispering "Daddy" between restless tosses. I waited until she was finally still, then crept into the bathroom, shut the door, and slid to the floor. There, on the cold tile, I fell apart. Grief isn't just emotional, it's physical. It crushed my chest like a boulder. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could only feel the absence of the man who had been my gravity. And so, in my darkest moment, I did what any daughter might do. I picked up the phone. I called my parents. They didn't answer with grief or urgency. They answered with laughter, clinking glasses, celebration, Sophia's birthday. "Rachel, can I call you back?" my mom said. We're in the middle of dinner. And that's when I knew I had lost more than Kevin that day. I had lost the illusion that family would catch me when I fell. The hours after Kevin's death blurred into a fog of decisions I wasn't ready to make. I sat across from the funeral director, nodding robotically at questions I didn't want to hear: burial or cremation, closed casket, or open, favorite suit, favorite song, favorite anything. All I wanted was to crawl into bed and pretend it hadn't happened. But life after death is cruel like that. It demands paperwork when all you want is silence. By the second evening, after telling Lily the worst truth of her life, I reached for my phone not to doom scroll or text a friend, but to do something desperate. I called my parents. They didn't come. They didn't even pause. My mother answered on the fifth ring, laughter echoing behind her. "We're still at Sophia's birthday dinner, Rachel. Can I call you back?" I choked on my grief. "Kevin died this morning. A heart attack. He's gone." There was a pause. Then, her voice tinged more with inconvenience than sorrow. "Oh, that's terrible." "Are you sure?" I stared at the wall, as if it could explain the absurdity of her question. I saw his body. "Mom, there's no mistake." But the conversation spiraled from bad to worse. She murmured something to a guest in the background, then returned with a rehearsed sympathy. "We're just in the middle of the party right now. Can you manage tonight? We'll stop by tomorrow." My father got on the phone next, not to comfort, but to confirm Kevin's life insurance was active. "You should contact the company first thing tomorrow," he advised. "Get ahead of the paperwork." I hung up, shaking not from sadness, but from a different kind of loss. I had just buried my husband. Now I was losing the illusion of family too. And yet others came. Kevin's brother, Marcus, flew in from Japan, arriving hours before the funeral. He looked gaunt and sleepless, but the moment he saw Lily, he crouched to her level and whispered, "I've got you, kiddo." His eyes were red, his hands steady. Diana, Kevin's mother, moved through our home like a soft presence of grace. She braided Lily's hair, laid out dresses, made tea I didn't drink, but appreciated nonetheless. Robert, his father, stayed late, quietly clearing plates, wiping counters, asking softly if I needed anything, never once making me answer. Kevin's colleagues cried at the service. They told Lily stories she might one day treasure. They hugged me like people who had known and loved a good man, because they had. My parents. They texted an hour before the ceremony to ask what color scheme to wear. They arrived late, sat in the front row, like guests at a performance. My mother dabbed at dry eyes with a lace handkerchief. Sophia scrolled her phone during the eulogy. My father cornered me at the reception to speculate on Kevin's investments and long-term portfolio. Meanwhile, strangers brought casseroles. Neighbors watched Lily so I could shower. Kevin's old law school friend offered to handle probate so I wouldn't have to face it alone. And as the house emptied and silence returned, Marcus stayed. Diana tucked Lily into bed with Kevin's unwashed t-shirt. Robert double-checked the locks before saying goodnight. That was the night I realized the people who matter are the ones who show up without being asked, and the ones who don't, no matter how closely they share your blood, might never have been family at all. 3 days after we buried Kevin, the sympathy flowers started to rot. The lilies by the door turned brown first. The roses sagged like tired women. The house smelled not of mourning, but of slow decay. I threw them out one by one, each bouquet feeling like a lie, thinking of you, they said. But no one came to sit with me. No one stayed. Grief turned into paperwork. Kevin's death certificate arrived in the mail, folded like a bill. I opened it on the kitchen counter and nearly vomited. Cause of death: sudden cardiac arrest. Status: deceased. Spouse notified: yes. That was it. 4 lines to sum up a man who once memorized the order of my coffee drinks in 4 different seasons. That night, I dressed Lily for school and forgot to wear shoes myself. She tugged at my hand at the curb. "Mommy, your feet are bare." I stared down. The cold pavement bit into my soles, but I didn't feel it. Inside me was a kind of quiet screaming I couldn't explain. Like my body was here moving, breathing, but my soul was locked in that hospital room, still waiting for someone to say it was all a mistake. My parents didn't visit. They didn't call. They sent an edible arrangement and a card signed, "We hope you're managing." Managing. Like I was recovering from a dental procedure. Meanwhile, Diana came by to wash Lily's favorite sweater by hand because she knew the texture mattered. Marcus fixed the doorbell that had been broken for months. Kevin's father built a small garden box for Lily to plant basil and strawberries. No speeches, no pity, just love in action, not obligation. One night, Lily crawled into my lap and asked if Daddy's gone. Where do the hugs go? I didn't know how to answer. So I just held her tighter, hoping maybe hugs are like prayers. Maybe they travel without needing a destination. The morning after Kevin's funeral, the house was still heavy with the scent of lilies and silence. I sat at the kitchen table, sifting through health insurance paperwork, with deadened fingers when the doorbell rang. Outside stood my parents. My father, adjusting his golf shirt, my mother checking her reflection in her compact mirror. They hadn't called, hadn't asked if I was okay. They just appeared. When I opened the door, my mother walked in briskly, her voice chipper. "Is Lily at school? Good, we can talk openly." She sat down like she owned the place. My father trailed behind her, already glancing around the living room like a real estate appraiser. I made coffee on instinct, slipping into old habits of hospitality, even as a quiet dread settled in my chest. When I returned, I found my father examining Kevin's sound system, running a hand along the sleek speakers. "Kevin had good taste in electronics," he said approvingly, as if we were talking about a man who had moved away, not died. We made small talk for a minute, forced hollow, until my father set his coffee down with a careful clink and cleared his throat. "Rachel," he began, "we wanted to talk about your financial situation." I blinked. "My situation? Now that you're adjusting to life without Kevin," my mother added, her tone almost rehearsed. I didn't say anything, so my father leaned forward, voice calm and businesslike. "We know Kevin had a generous life insurance policy, and given your position now, we think it's reasonable for you to assist the family. After all, we've helped you many times in the past." My heart dropped. "Are you asking me for money?" He nodded without shame. 50% of the insurance payout, that would allow us to secure our retirement. And a small share for Sophia too, given her struggles. It's not unreasonable. It took me a second to process. 50%. Half of what Kevin had left to secure our future, mine and Lily's, now being claimed by people who didn't even come when I called crying. My voice came out low. My husband just died. My father shrugged, as if that were irrelevant. And life goes on. Bills don't wait. Family should help family. I stood slowly. Family should have shown up when I needed them. Not answered my call from a birthday party. Not asked about insurance before his body was even cold. My mother looked away, but my father's expression didn't change. "You're being emotional," he said. "This is just practical planning." And that was it, the moment I understood that grief had stripped away more than my marriage. It had revealed the truth of the people I came from. I set my coffee down with shaking hands. "Get out." My mother flinched. "Rachel, please, get out of my house." My father rose, clearly offended. "You should reconsider. We raised you, paid for your college, helped with your first house. Don't forget what we've done for you." But I was done listening to guilt disguised as generosity. "And now, I'm asking you to leave. Kevin's money isn't a reward for enduring me as your daughter." They walked out without another word. And when the door shut behind them, I slid to the floor, my body trembling, with the ache of understanding I hadn't just lost Kevin. I'd lost the last illusions I had about what family meant. In the days following the confrontation with my parents, I found myself moving through life like a shadow. I kept waiting for someone to knock on the door for the next blow to fall, but the knock never came. Just silence, cold, purposeful silence from the people who once called themselves my family. Instead, warmth arrived in quieter ways. Marcus stayed. He slept on the pull-out couch, folded laundry without being asked, learned how Lily liked her cereal. In the evenings, when the house stilled, we sat together at the kitchen table, sometimes in conversation, sometimes in silence. His presence was like Kevin's echo, calm, steady, unwavering. One night, I told him everything about the envelope, about my father's request for half of Kevin's life insurance. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he said nothing at first. Then finally, "I wish I could say I'm surprised." I looked at him tired. "Kevin never told me my dad asked him for money. Twice. Because he wanted to protect you," Marcus said gently. That's who he was, and it was true. Kevin had held the weight of so many things I didn't see. Now I carried them all alone. The contrast between the two families grew more painful with each passing day. Kevin's parents didn't ask questions. They didn't make demands. They came with casseroles and quiet reassurances, with photo albums and stories they whispered to Lily at bedtime. They stepped into the cracks of our grief, not to fill them, but to help us survive them. Meanwhile, my own parents remained silent. No messages asking how Lily was coping. No offers to help. Just a lingering void where support should have been. Instead, love came from Kevin's world. His old college roommate, Brian, drove 3 hours just to drop off a stuffed bear Lily once left at their house. Jennifer, my co-worker, brought over a scrapbook of Kevin's company photos, each one with notes scribbled by his colleagues. "So she'll know what kind of man her father was," she said. But from the people whose blood I shared nothing. One morning, Lily crawled into bed with me before sunrise, Kevin's old t-shirt still clutched in her arms. Her voice was sleepy but serious. "Mom, why don't Grandma and Grandpa want to see us?" My chest tightened. They made some choices that weren't very kind. And when people act like that, sometimes we have to step away until they understand. She thought for a moment. "But Daddy's mom and dad come all the time. They ask me about my dreams. They let me cry." "Why aren't your parents like that?" I didn't know how to answer. Because love should have been instinctive. Comfort should have come without cost. And grief should not have come with a price tag. Later that week, Diana took Lily to the park. When they came back, Lily handed me a drawing, her Kevin, and a tiny heart between them. Beneath it, she'd written, "Real love doesn't leave when things get hard." It was childish, uneven, misspelled. It was the truest thing I'd read in weeks. That night, while Kevin's parents sat with Lily playing dominoes, I stepped outside with Marcus. The air was cool, the street silent. I looked at him and whispered, "Is it wrong that I feel closer to Kevin's family than my own?" Marcus shook his head. "Rachel, they never acted like your family. They acted like creditors. Kevin's family loved you before all this. Now they just love you louder because they know you need it." And in that moment, I knew I hadn't lost everything. What I lost was a myth, and what remained, what Kevin left behind, was real. The invitation came not as a conversation, but as a demand. A voicemail from my father, clipped and formal. "This concerns all of us. Be at the house Sunday at 2:00. Bring Lily." There was no question, no check-in, no pause to consider whether we were ready. It was a summons. Marcus offered to come with us, but I told him no. I needed to face them myself. Lily insisted on coming. For Daddy, she said, eyes solemn. She held a manila envelope close to her chest, and when I asked what was inside, she only whispered, "It's a message. From me and Daddy." Sunday arrived gray and cool. The air felt heavy, like the sky itself was holding its breath. We pulled into my childhood driveway. Familiar cars lined the curb. Uncles, aunts, people I hadn't seen since the funeral. My parents had gathered witnesses. That much was clear. Inside, the living room was staged like a courtroom. My father sat in his recliner, back straight. Sophia leaned against the arm of the couch, scrolling her phone. My mother greeted us with forced warmth and directed us to sit. Without preamble, my father began. "We've reviewed the numbers and discussed what we believe is fair. Considering our previous support college tuition, your first home, the many ways we've sacrificed, it's reasonable that a portion of Kevin's life insurance go to support the rest of the family." He handed me a document, a spreadsheet of percentages and dollar signs. 50% to them, 15 to Sophia, 35 left for Lily and me. I didn't look at it. I didn't need to. My voice was calm. "You're asking me to give away the money my husband left to raise our daughter, so you can retire comfortably." Sophia spoke up, arms crossed. "Mom and Dad helped you your whole life. Now it's your turn." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because Lily stood up. She clutched her envelope tightly, then stepped into the middle of the room, small, brave, and heartbreakingly serious. "I have something to give you," she said, voice trembling but clear. "It's from me. About Daddy." She walked up to my father and handed him the drawing. A child's sketch of 3 figures, me, Lily, and Kevin. Around them were empty circles labeled things like "came when we needed help," $0, "hugged Mom when she cried," $0, "asked how I was," $0. And at the bottom, in bold, uneven letters, "being real grandparents, priceless, but not provided." The silence was instant. My mother's hand covered her mouth. My father's face turned pale. Sophia stared at the floor. "You didn't come when Daddy died," Lily whispered. "You didn't come when Mommy cried. You didn't even ask if I was okay. You just came when you wanted money." My heart cracked, not from pain, but from the awe of her courage. I think Lily added, voice smaller now, "That's not what family is supposed to do." She returned to me, and I wrapped her in my arms as if I could shield her from everything. But she didn't need shielding. She had spoken the truth that none of them dared face. I stood. "This conversation is over. Don't call us again unless it's to apologize." Genuinely, completely, and without expecting anything in return. We left the document on the coffee table, still unread. As I opened the door, I looked back once, not out of nostalgia, but certainty. The people in that room weren't my family anymore. The girl beside me holding my hand with her father's courage and her mother's fire she was. In the weeks following that final confrontation, the silence from my parents was deafening, but no longer terrifying. It was the silence of a door closed, not slammed. And for the first time, I didn't reach for the handle. Instead, I turned toward the life in front of me. Lily and I made a new kind of rhythm, cookies, insisting they had to be underbaked just a little the way Kevin liked. Robert helped Lily build a birdhouse in the backyard, his hands gentle and precise, just like his son's. And Lily blossomed. She still had nightmares, still clutched Kevin's old t-shirt on hard days. But she also danced barefoot in the living room, built Lego castles, and started drawing again. She began adding a fourth figure in her pictures, Uncle Marcus. Then one day, she drew just the two of us holding hands, standing on a hill with Kevin drawn above, as a cloud with a smile. "Daddy's always watching," she told me. "But now we're walking." I nodded, tears in my eyes. We were walking. With the help of Thomas, Kevin's lawyer friend, I established a small foundation in his name, offering free financial literacy workshops for single parents and underserved families. It wasn't grand, but it was real. It was Kevin's spirit, his kindness, his quiet care living on in something that helped people. On the first anniversary of his death, we returned to the lake where Kevin had once taken Lily fishing. The bench where we used to sit had his name carved now. Lily laid wildflowers on it, then sat beside me watching the ripples in the water. "Do you think Daddy's proud of us?" she asked. I looked at her, her strength, her heart, the bravery she showed in that living room when grown adults failed to do what was right, and I smiled through the ache. "Yes, baby," I said softly. "I think he's proud every single day." We sat in silence. Not the hollow silence of absence, but the warm one of presence remembered. 3 months after that final confrontation, a letter arrived, not typed, not on business stationery, but handwritten in my mother's cursive. It began with no pleasantries. "Dear Rachel and Lily, we've spent these weeks looking at ourselves more honestly than we ever have. There is no excuse for how we failed you. We failed you the moment we hesitated when you needed us most. We failed Kevin's memory, and we failed the little girl who should have been wrapped in nothing but love. We are not asking for anything, not forgiveness, not contact. Only that you know this, we are trying to become people worthy of being invited back into your life one day." Enclosed was a second note, shorter, childlike in tone. "Dear Lily, Grandma and Grandpa are sorry. We forgot how to be brave for you. But we're trying to learn again. If you ever want to send us a drawing, we'd love one. Love your other grandparents." We hope. I stared at the letters for a long time. They didn't ask for meetings, didn't mention money, didn't shift blame. They took responsibility. And that in itself was something new. I didn't show Lily the notes right away. I sat with them. I let them breathe on the kitchen table for a few days, like a wound exposed to air. Then one evening, while Lily was coloring, I placed the envelope beside her gently. She read it slowly, lips moving silently. When she was done, she looked up at me, unsure. "Do you believe them now?" "I believe they're trying," I said. "And that matters." She was quiet for a moment, then pulled a fresh sheet of paper from her sketch pad. Slowly, carefully, she began to draw a bridge. On one side, a small girl with a heart balloon. On the other, 2 gray-haired figures standing awkwardly, but waiting. And beneath the drawing in her crooked handwriting, "You can visit, but only if you promise to walk slow and be kind." That weekend, we agreed to meet at a park. Neutral ground, no expectations, no second chances promised, only the chance to show up truly this time. My parents arrived early. My mother clutched a well-worn copy of Lily's favorite astronomy book, My father looked older somehow, not just aged, but humbled. When Lily ran ahead to the swings, they didn't try to follow right away. My mother turned to me, her voice soft. "We know we can't undo it. We want to learn how to be better." I didn't speak. I didn't promise anything. But I nodded once. That was enough for now. From across the playground, Lily waved at them. They waved back. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the stirrings of something I thought was lost forever. Not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of a bridge. A year after Kevin's death, Lily and I sat beside the lake he loved most. The water was calm that day, soft ripples catching sunlight the way his eyes used to when he laughed. Lily skipped a stone across the surface. "Do you think Daddy knows we're okay now?" she asked. I looked at her, this fierce, kind, resilient child who had weathered more than most adults I knew, and nodded. "Yes, I think he knows, and I think he's proud." There had been so many kinds of silence after he died. The silence of grief, the silence of abandonment, but also eventually the silence of peace. Marcus had moved back permanently, keeping his promise to Kevin. He became more than an uncle. He became our anchor. Kevin's parents remained steady, never asking for anything, simply loving us without condition. And my own parents, to my surprise, had begun the slow, imperfect work of showing up not with demands, but with listening ears and humble hearts. We hadn't erased the past. We had simply stopped letting it poison the present. Family, I learned, isn't about shared blood. It's about who shows up when it's dark, who holds your hand when you're falling, who says "I believe you" when the world calls you dramatic, who protects your child's future like it's sacred, who listens, really listens, when an 8-year-old girl says, "Only if you walk slow and be kind." Kevin left us money. But his real inheritance was this: the courage to draw boundaries, the strength to choose what's right, not what's easy, the quiet conviction that love doesn't come with a price tag. Lily rested her head on my shoulder. "Mom," she said, "I think we're stronger now, not because Daddy died, but because we remembered how to live for him." And as the sun dipped low across the water, I held my daughter close and whispered what I knew to be true. That's the family he left us. Not perfect, not blood, but real. And that's more than enough. Grief is not a straight line. It loops, it dips. Some days it whispers, other days it roars. Even now, 2 years since Kevin died, I still wake reaching for him. I still catch myself starting a sentence with, "You'll never guess what Lily did today," before silence swallows the words. But grief has softened. The raw wound has become a scar, tender, yes, but no longer bleeding. What remains now is legacy, not the life insurance policy, not the house or the trust funds, though those things gave us safety, and I'll forever be grateful for Kevin's foresight. But his true legacy is harder to count. It's in Lily's quiet strength when she speaks up for herself. It's in the way she writes apology notes unprompted because Daddy said sorry means you're trying to do better. It's in the community college student who received a scholarship from the foundation we built in Kevin's name and emailed to say, "No one ever told me I was smart before." It's in the fact that I now say no without guilt, that I no longer shrink in the face of obligation disguised as love, that I know now protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. Kevin taught us how to love, but in his absence, he also taught us how to survive. Sometimes through his actions, sometimes through the choices we had to make because of his loss. Lily still keeps one of his ties in her backpack. Not for school, not for show, just in case I need his bravery today, she says. I used to think death ended the relationship. Now I know better. Kevin didn't vanish. He transformed. He became the story we tell when we feel unsure. The standard we hold ourselves to when tempted to be small. The voice inside us whispering, "Be kind, be strong, be the better person." This is what he left behind, a daughter who knows her worth. A wife who finally found her voice. A family not perfect, but chosen, who learned that real love doesn't take. It gives. And a world just slightly better because he was once in it. The letter he never sent. 3 days before the court notice arrived, I found a letter in Kevin's handwriting tucked behind the last drawer of his desk, sealed but never mailed. It was addressed to my father. "James, I know you're asking again. I've said no, and I'll say it again. The money I'm building is for Rachel and Lily. I know you think she owes you. But she doesn't. I see what she doesn't say. I see how your love comes with strings, conditions, ledgers. I won't let you bankrupt her peace of mind the way you tried to bankrupt her future. If you ever truly loved your daughter, prove it by walking away from her wallet." Kevin. He never sent it. Maybe he thought it was too harsh. Maybe he hoped things would change. Instead, he died. And the man he tried to protect me from came anyway, this time with lawyers. When family becomes the enemy. The legal notice arrived on a Thursday. Rachel Morgan versus James and Eleanor Morgan claim equitable compensation for lifetime parental investment. They were suing me, not for debts, not for custody, but for raising me. Their lawyers called it a novel legal strategy. They cited the mortgage my parents once co-signed, my college tuition. They argued that Kevin's estate now had the means to reimburse them for parental services rendered. The press got hold of it. Headlines splashed across small-town tabloids, "Grieving widow sued by her own parents for inheritance." I stopped going to the grocery store. Lily got asked about it at school. One evening, she came home with red eyes. A kid said, "Grandpa's suing you because you're greedy." I held her. I tried to stay strong. But that night in the dark, I whispered to Kevin, "How do I survive this without becoming bitter?" The trial. The courtroom was cold. My parents sat across from me dressed like mourners, as if this were Kevin's funeral all over again, and not a betrayal carried out in daylight. Their lawyer painted a picture that I had always been dependent. That Kevin's success was built on their sacrifices. That by refusing to share his estate, I was being ungrateful, vindictive even. My own mother cried on the stand, but her tears didn't fall for me. They fell for a version of herself she believed had been robbed. I didn't cry. Until Lily asked to speak. The judge hesitated. "She's only 10. "She's part of this," I said quietly. "She's part of what they're trying to take." They allowed her, and she stood small, trembling, but unshakable. "My grandpa wants Mommy's money," she said, "but Mommy is the one who stayed. Mommy is the one who held me when Daddy died. Mommy is the reason I still laugh." She pulled something from her pocket, the same drawing from a year ago. "I drew this when I thought I was alone. I'm not anymore, but I want the court to see what love is, because what they're doing, it's not love." The room went silent. Even the judge blinked. Even my father looked away. Victory without bitterness. The court ruled in my favor. They dismissed the claim, called it unprecedented, unfounded, unethical. But what surprised me most wasn't the verdict. It was how hollow it felt. There was no cheer, no vindication, just a quiet ache where relief should have been. My father refused to meet my eyes as the judge read the ruling. My mother wept, not out of regret, I think, but from the shame of losing in public. Sophia was absent entirely. As we stepped outside, reporters swarmed. Microphones, flashes, questions like knives. I shielded Lily and said only one thing: I'm not here to win. I'm here to protect my daughter. And her father's name. Then I walked away. That night, Lily asked me, "Do we hate them now?" I paused, then knelt to meet her eyes. "No, baby. We don't hate them. We remember, we learn, and we live better." She nodded, thoughtful. "Like Daddy would." "Yes," I said. "Exactly like Daddy would." In the months that followed, things didn't magically repair. My parents faded into a distant background, not enemies, but strangers with shared history. We didn't erase them. We simply stopped letting their silence echo in our home. Marcus stayed. Diana and Robert continued to visit every Sunday, sometimes with new photo albums, sometimes just with quiet hugs and warm muffins. Their love didn't need permission to exist. It simply showed up again and again. Lily started writing letters to Kevin. Not out of grief anymore, but gratitude. "Dear Daddy," she once wrote, "I think you would like who we've become." I think he would too. Because we didn't survive the fire by being angry. We walked through it with grace. We didn't burn down bridges out of spite. We built new ones, stronger ones from the ashes. And that, I've come to believe, is the real victory. Not justice, but peace. When Kevin died, I believed my life had unraveled. After nearly a decade of building routines and dreams dinosaur-shaped pancakes on Tuesday mornings, Lily's bedtime laughter whispered late-night plans, I thought those moments defined love. I thought family was kin. But grief showed me another truth. The greatest loss wasn't Kevin himself. It was the revelation of who would stand with us when everything came crashing down. I'll never forget that morning the microwave timer dings, Kevin humming as he pours batter into dinosaur molds, Lily's cereal bowl clattering. The smell of coffee. And then nothing. That sharp phone call void of his voice, just the tremble of a coworker trying to say, "He's gone." That same day, I swore I would die before him. But I didn't get the chance to say goodbye. When I called my mother bleeding through storybook labels, "Syrup only counts if it's real maple," he teased, I expected comfort. I got birthday cake and distracted voices in the background, and a "can this wait?" that felt like a slap. My father's voice, later cold, pragmatic, "Call the insurance company tomorrow." I'd lost my husband, and I was losing my family too. In that void, I sat with Lily huddled in the dark, her tiny shoulders heaving, whispering, "I want Daddy." And suddenly, the house echoed with absence deeper than death. What followed wasn't just grief. It was the beginning of unmasking. My parents flew in on their schedule, not ours, to negotiate money. 50% of Kevin's life insurance, they said. It was not grief. It was a ledger. I realized then, love was never again going to be a word I took at face value. But from the ashes came voices that mattered. Marcus, his brother, stepped into the breach. He stayed. He held Lily like she was made of glass. He snapped open her cereal preferences. He let her cry into his shoulder. He spoke no words of judgment, only presence. And his parents, Diana, with gentle grace, Robert, with quiet competence, they came bearing casseroles and armfuls of kindness. They never asked for anything. They simply carried us through the hardest days. Then came the lawsuit. My parents sued me, not for money owed, but for gratitude, owed for equitable compensation for raising me. The courtroom became our crucible. Before biology lawyers and blinding lights, they listed every tuition check, every mortgage signature, every birthday gift. I sat, arms folded, cataloging my disbelief. And then Lily spoke. At 10 years old, she picked up that drawing, 3 stick figures with dollar signs and empty circles for love. "They didn't come when Daddy died," she said. "They just came when they wanted money. That's not love." The judge went silent. My father looked away. I realized then that the real courtroom wasn't the house with tax returns. It was the moment a child taught a room full of lawyers what family really is. We won. The suit was dismissed, but victory had no confetti, no cheers, just a long exhale of something heavy finally lifted. Because what victory meant was clear. We didn't have to settle for expectations written by others. We didn't have to shrink ourselves to fit. In the weeks and months that followed, the healing came not through legal filings or public vindication, but through small, steady renewal. Marcus moved back, no fanfare, just presence. Diana taught Lily how to bake cookies, just underdone the way Daddy liked. Robert and Lily built a birdhouse, a silent act of building something together, an act of hope. Through each Sunday morning gathering, each photo album leafed through, Lily's laughter returned. She skipped, again, danced again, dared again to believe in an ordinary day. I began to find my voice too. I refused to answer calls from my parents. I put back half the insurance they demanded. I reminded myself that boundaries weren't just walls. They were promises to my daughter and to myself that love came without strings. On the first anniversary of Kevin's death, we returned to the lake. We planted a bench with his name, left wildflowers on the wood, watched the water shimmer. Lily skipped a stone and asked softly, "Do you think Daddy's proud of us?" I bent to her, feeling the weight of everything we'd been through. "Yes," I said, and meant it with every breath, every single day. We also launched the Kevin Morgan Foundation, a small but powerful way to channel his legacy. Financial literacy programs for single parents, scholarships to empower people who feel overlooked. Each student who writes back, "No one ever told me I was smart," before reminds us that love isn't only felt, it's shared. In Lily's drawings now, 4 people stand side by side. Me, her Uncle Marcus, and Diana, and Robert, once strangers, now chosen family. Above us all is Kevin, sketched as a smiling cloud. "She told me recently Daddy's still there, Mom, watching us walk." I don't think she knows how much that makes me believe in every silent sacrifice he ever made. Grief is never linear. It spirals. One day, I'll reach for him in the kitchen and find only emptiness. Another, I'll hear his laugh in my daughter's voice. Some days, the ache flares. Other days, it's quiet enough for hope to grow again. But the contours of truth are clearer now. Family isn't bloodlines or shared history. It's who shows up in darkness, who stays when it hurts, who asks for no repayment, only presence. It's the Sunday visits that go unannounced. It's the casseroles and the birdhouses and the soft, unspoken promise, you are not alone. That is the legacy Kevin left. Not invoices, not insurance policies, not even the house. He left us love that didn't ask for returns. He left us the right to say no. He left us inheritance of dignity, strength, and compassion. He left us a daughter who knows her worth and a mother who found her voice. And that, stranger than any court ruling, is the most radical victory. Not justice claimed, but peace reclaimed. Not blood-bound, but bond made. And I believe, I hope, I know one day Lily will tell her story like this. My dad died. My grandmother didn't come, but someone else did. And that was the beginning of the family I chose, and they chose us back. Under that bench by the lake, I'll leave a note someday. A small stone inscribed, "Here grew love from loss." And when Lily skips stones over it, she'll know even in absence, real love remains. That's the inheritance Kevin gave. That's our story now. I'm Rachel Morgan, 32 years old, and last Tuesday changed everything. The morning began with Kevin flipping dinosaur pancakes for our daughter Lily. By noon, he was gone. A sudden heart attack. One phone call, and my world collapsed. In shock, I called my parents, hoping for comfort. My mother's response, "Can this wait? We're celebrating Sophia's birthday." That night, Lily and I sat alone, no family, no support, just silence. But what hurt most wasn't the loss. It was realizing who truly disappears when you're drowning. If you've ever been abandoned in your darkest hour, this story is for you. Kevin kissed me on the forehead that morning, humming, while he flipped dinosaur-shaped pancakes for our daughter Lily. He was wearing that stupid tie with the jelly stains, Lily's favorite. I teased him like always. He winked and said, "Syrup's only worth it if it's the real kind, remember." Then he grabbed his coffee, his briefcase, and was gone. At 10:47 a.m. my phone rang. It wasn't his voice I heard. It was his boss. Panicked, shaky, saying words I couldn't string together. Collapse, ambulance, no pulse, so sorry, Rachel. I don't remember screaming. I only remember the coffee cup slipping from my hand and shattering against the tile like a gunshot. When I got to the hospital, they wouldn't let me see him right away. I sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights while the world blurred. Then a nurse came out, and her eyes said what her lips didn't dare say: "He's gone. Gone." No warning, no goodbye, no last words. Just gone. I drove home in silence. Lily was still at school. I had to pick her up. I had to tell her. But first, I called my mom. Because even at 32, you still think your mother will know what to do when your life catches fire. She picked up on the third ring. I could hear laughter behind her glass clinking. "Rachel, can I call you back? We're celebrating Sophia's birthday." "What's going on?" I choked out the words. "Kevin, he's dead." There was a pause. A silence so loud, it felt like a slap. "Oh," she said finally. "Rachel, that's awful. But can this wait?" Sophia just started opening presents. That night, I sat in the dark with Lily curled in my lap. I hadn't told her yet. I didn't know how. I stared at the phone in my hand, waiting for it to ring again. Waiting for anyone from my family to show up. But no one came. And in that silence, I realized I hadn't just lost my husband. I was about to lose my family too. How we fell in love and why I never expected to lose him. Kevin wasn't supposed to die. We met in the most unromantic way imaginable sophomore year, Econ 202:80 a.m. on Mondays. I was drowning in depreciation curves and GDP formulas, and he was the effortlessly charming TA who stayed after class to explain things with the patience of a saint. That patience was the first thing I fell for. Then his laugh, loud, unapologetic, the kind that made you laugh too, even if you didn't get the joke. And the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, I swear it could melt glaciers. We dated through college. He proposed on graduation day, slipping the ring into my diploma case like he couldn't wait one more second. We were 23, stupid in love, and everyone told us we were too young. Live a little first, they said. But Kevin was the life I wanted to live. He was the one who made grilled cheese at midnight when I couldn't sleep. The one who danced with me in the kitchen just because my favorite song came on. The one who looked at me like I was the whole world, even when I didn't believe I was worth it. After he got his MBA, Kevin landed a job at a high-powered financial firm in Chicago. He moved up fast not just because he was brilliant with numbers, but because he made people feel safe, heard. He wasn't just a financial advisor. He was a guy who'd stay after a meeting to explain your retirement plan because he didn't want you to feel dumb. We waited 5 years before trying for a baby. We thought it would be easy. It wasn't. 2 miscarriages, 1 failed IVF, thousands of dollars, countless tears. I remember crying in the bathroom with a negative pregnancy test while Kevin sat on the floor outside the door reading me bad dad jokes to make me smile. We almost gave up. Almost. Then miracle. Lily. The pregnancy was brutal. I was on bed rest for 2 months, and Kevin practically moved into the guest room to take care of me full time. He massaged my swollen feet, brought me smoothies with exactly 3 ice cubes, and read baby books out loud, complete with the silly voices. When Lily was born, he cried harder than I did. He held her like she was made of glass, whispering, "Hi, I'm your dad," like it was the greatest honor anyone